Pépin from the European Commission. And feel free to either sit down or stand. It's as you feel most comfortable.
I don't mind. What do you prefer? If I stand or if I sit? I sit? Okay. Stand. Okay, I'll try to do both.
So Anne Pépin has joined the gender sector of the European Commission's Directorate General for Research and Innovation in 2017 as a senior policy officer in charge of gender equality policies in the European research area and of their implementation through dedicated provisions in the Horizon Europe EU Framework Programme for Research and Innovation. She has also coordinated several EU-funded projects focusing on the promotion of gender equality and higher education and research organizations. We're delighted to have you with us this morning, and on to you. Can you see all right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
If you, I guess you're not going to stay. Okay. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here, and I will leave a little bit the international setting to come back to the European one. Of course, I'll say a few things about international aspects, but I'd like to give you an update of the overall context at EU level on and recent updates on addressing gender-based violence in academia and research. So I guess this is it. So yes, I entitled my presentation Towards a European Research Area, or Towards an Era Free from Gender-Based Violence. And just to complete what you said, so I'm leading the gender sector in the DG, the Directorate General for Research and Innovation in the European Commission, in a unit that has just changed its name on the 16th of November. So now we are called Democracy, Equality and Culture. Previously, Democracy and European Values, and there's another cultural aspect and that has been added to the unit. So, about the context. So first, at the College of Commissioners itself, and under the leadership of President Ursula von der Leyen, the gender equality has been really put high on the agenda. There is a Commissioner for Equality for the first time, and there is a task force, Directorate General, inter-service task force on equality that has been created. And we have a new commissioner, Iliana Ivanova, who arrived very recently and who, okay, sorry, I'm a bit too close to the mic, who really, I'm told to convey her congratulations to the UniSAFE project. She already had sent a written message in the Spanish presidency conference that occurred a month ago, and that featured very prominently the results of UniSAFE. And you could rest assured that she's very committed to supporting jointly with member states, associated countries and stakeholders, really a route towards gender-based violence-free European research and innovation system. And very quickly, early on in this new College of Commissioners, the gender equality strategy of the Commission 2020-2025 was adopted. 5 more strategies were also adopted after that, including the first ever LGBTIQ strategy. And already gender-based violence is prominently featured in this gender equality strategy. So with really the intention to prevent, to combat gender-based violence, and to really work with member states and encourage them to systematically collect and report data on gender-based violence. This strategy also pinpointed directly to Horizon Europe, our framework program for research and innovation, announcing some measures that would require organization applying to the program to have a gender equality plan in place, and also announcing that there would be funding for gender studies and intersectional research, which was a novelty to be explicitly funded in a framework program. At the EU level, you've heard already about it. Actually, maybe not for the first one, but the EU accession to the Council of Europe's Istanbul Convention. I don't need to detail. You've heard a lot about it in the previous speakers. And the Commission itself proposed a directive to combat violence against women and domestic violence in March 2022. And we are now in the third round of trilogue between the Council of the EU and the European Parliament to agree on a common text and eventually adopt a directive. So what is blocking, to let you know, actually a month ago, there was not a lot of agreement. Really on the 14th of November, there was agreement between the co-legislators on most of the chapters. What is still under discussion is rape and the criminalization of rape and the definition of rape that is proposed, which is based on consent or not coercion, but consent. So it's moving slightly, more member states or opening to this understanding, but there's a difference between the interpretation of the legal service of the Council, which also doesn't consider that rape is part of exploitation of women, while the Commission legal service does think that it is part of that framework. So discussions are going on, but we are progressing, and really the objective for the Spanish presidency is to have it adopted under their presidency and to finalize that early on next year, because the Parliament will have to wrap up its legislative work roughly in February, and then you have the European Parliament elections. So this is something that Ursula von der Leyen really put forward in her State of the Union speech in September, really calling for the member states and the co-legislators to find an agreement and to finally put that into the law, because no means no. So I won't say more, just that really in the work program, also that's an objective for the Commission for next year. Now, coming back to academia and previous funding before UniSAFE to address gender-based violence in academia, of course, the justice program, so on rights, equality, citizenship, the Daphne strand has been funding initiatives supporting the fight against gender-based violence for a long time. And these two projects here, USV React and ESHTE, so we were small projects, but really focusing on academia, communication campaigns, but also trainings, but they were not research projects. Under Erasmus+, the education framework program, I'm highlighting the PRIVEX project here, also a smaller size project, which is finishing now, and basically it's about the same duration as UniSAFE, and it's very much on education of university staff and to actually educate teenagers. It has a specific focus like this, but still not a research project as such. And under Horizon 2020, there were already quite a lot of initiatives addressing gender-based violence into the many projects we have funded to implement gender equality plans. It was not systematic, but it was something that happened in many projects, and this has been collected and informed in an online tool that we asked the European Institute for Gender Equality to develop. And this is a GEAR tool. Also in our publication on statistics on gender equality across Europe and beyond, the SHE figures, we started highlighting that, putting forward information, but it's still quite hard to get data at the EU level collected systematically, and UniSAFE is quite aware of this, of course. And then in 2018 or so, we thought we need to have a topic, a research topic, that will look into this issue at a large scale. So we started drafting a topic really in 2018, which was for the 2020 work program, and this is what UniSAFE has responded to, and with, well, with great quality, and really congratulations to the projects. It's really something we can build upon, and already have starting doing so. So how will we build upon it? And what is the context? Actually, before that, Horizon Europe itself. So I already said we had announced that things were happening. And actually, we really strengthened the gender equality provision in that framework program at 3 different levels. I won't go into the detail of all these, but I'll focus on the gender equality plan eligibility criterion. So this is really all academic institutions, research organizations, but also public bodies from member states and third countries associated to Horizon Europe that need to have a JEP, we call it, in place that fulfills a minimum set of requirements that you see here. So it's very much process-based requirements. Having a public document, really visible on the website, having dedicated resources to implement that plan, and also gender expertise to do so effectively, have it evidence-based, collect sex and or gender disaggregated data and report on it annually, and also train, raise awareness on what gender equality is, and especially on unconscious gender biases for staff and particularly decision makers. That's what's mandatory, but we recommend the following areas to be addressed in the gender equality plan. So these are not all mandatories, but at this stage at least, but clearly measures against gender-based violence, and including sexual harassment, is one of these 5 recommended areas. And we're supporting organizations and countries in understanding how to comply with this requirement. So through webinars, through an update of the GEAR tool, through trainings, through a guidance that has been published, an evaluation study that is finished now and will be published soon, and that has a specific policy brief on gender-based violence in research and in innovation. And there's an upcoming additional support to countries and organizations within that will be happening next year. Now the policy context, the core policy context for research and innovation is the European research area. So since 2012, gender equality and gender mainstreaming in research have been a priority, and that has really helped advance in quite a number of countries in the era. In 2020, the Commission proposed a new framework revisited for the era, highlighting that we needed to tackle gender-based violence and discrimination in organization, which had not been put at the forefront in the previous era framework. And in 2021, in November, a package of legal documents were adopted a council recommendation on the Pact for Research and Innovation in Europe, which really defined gender equality as a core principle and value of research and innovation, and highlighted clearly combating gender-based violence and harassment as a value and as a priority for joint action at the ERA level and in the Union. That's in the pact, and this council conclusion defined a roadmap, which is the ERA policy agenda, with 20 actions that the member state agreed were priority actions for the next 3 years for the European Union. And one of these actions, Action 5, that has been mentioned at the start of this conference, is on promoting gender equality and fostering inclusiveness, taking note of the Ljubljana Declaration. So I won't detail everything, but this is a declaration that was spearheaded by the Slovenian presidency, and that gathered the endorsement of 25 of the member states and the Commission itself, plus some third countries. And in it, and I will just skip there. I'll go back to the next slides after. It highlighted that really gender-based violence as a core topic, as I said, and that there was a lack of relevant policies to address this, and there was a need for additional policy coordination between research funding, research performing organization, and other stakeholders in the ERA. And now coming back to Action 5, 4 deliverables were proposed, adopted by the Council for this action. And the more concrete one is actually to come up with a strategy to counteract gender-based violence, including sexual harassment, in the research and innovation system. To implement this, to propose a strategy, there's a new governance structure to help implement the ERA policy agenda, which is the ERA Forum, which decided to create a specific subgroup to address Action 5. And you can see here that quite a number of member states have committed to being part of this subgroup, nominating representatives to address the 4 deliverables that were on the previous slide, associated countries as well, and stakeholder umbrella organization, quite a number that are in the higher education category, also the performing organization category, also PhD candidates category with Eurodoc, academies of science, and funding organization. So a large representation of stakeholders and countries that are committed to addressing these issues. And in October, it was decided to create a specific task force on gender-based violence that will draft this strategy. And already 7 countries are committing, and several stakeholder organizations. And you have a number of representatives from this task force in the room, and you will hear from them tomorrow on this, but also on other aspects that they are involved in, and especially what they have contributed to the UniSAFE project. So what the task force is trying to devise at this stage, so I think I have that. Yes, here. Oh, that's the whole of the task, the mandate of the subgroup. But the idea is to develop, for a strategy, an EU baseline on gender-based violence in research and innovation, such as a zero-tolerance code of conduct. And here we already had quite a discussion, or should we use zero tolerance or not? Because all the arguments that Françoise Tulkens brought up were also brought up, or just using tolerance as a concept was maybe not the good framework. And trust, why not? We did not really put that forward. However, the idea with using zero tolerance at this stage, it's really to make a political statement. We will address this, and a bit like we are forcing organization through Horizon Europe to have a gender equality plan. If you don't have one, you don't have money. That's not a trust-based approach totally. There's part of it that is trust, but we are doing compliance checks now. But it has had a strong effect. Really, academic organization have had to move and adopt gender equality plans. So we will see if we keep this. We can still discuss, but at this stage, this is the plan. And I said there were 20 actions. That's action 5, and it went a little fast, but one of the deliverables, it's to ensure gender mainstreaming in the other actions. And there are clear synergies, of course, with action 4, which is on research career, but also action 13, which is specifically on universities, and action 3, which is on a reform of research assessment. So already all these have embedded in their objectives gender equality aspects. And here for research career, the Commission proposed a new framework for research career, adopted this summer, which is now currently being discussed in the Council. So normally this should be adopted on the 8th of December by the Competitiveness Council. We have just learned that the Spanish presidency wanted, in addition, to have a launch debate specifically on youth and gender equality in research and innovation, where we will also bring these issues to the table. And annexed to this framework, there is a new charter for researcher, which replaces the former charter and code that were proposed by the Commission in 2005. And you may be aware of the human resources HR S4R strategy and the label for excellence in human resource strategies that has been put in place. So this replaces it, and there's an enhanced definition of what gender equality is as a principle. I'm almost done. So it clearly spells out that gender equality also aims at combating gender-based violence and sexual harassment. And hopefully this will be a charter for researchers, employers, funders, and policymakers. And so what's next? What will the task force build upon? Already in the previous ERA framework, the ERAC Standing Working Group on Gender in Research and Innovation, which was chaired by Marcela Linkova, which you will hear tomorrow, and who is also the current elected chair of the subgroup for Action 5. Already quite a lot of work done there, in particularly carried out by the Swedish, and you will hear about Fredrik Bondestam tomorrow. And Gender Action Plus, which is a policy coordination supporting project under Horizon Europe, has done a benchmarking on this. You will probably hear about it tomorrow. And the Inspire project also is including gender-based violence aspect into some case studies. And of course, under the 2023 work program of Horizon Europe, the ERA supporting part, we propose a topic to help implement really the planned code of conduct against gender-based violence in the ERA. And a project has been selected, which is UniSAFE. The grant agreement is signed. The project will start in March. And there are many people also in this room that will be participating to this project. And of course, some presidencies have really put that forward strongly. The Czech presidency, the Spanish one, And I'll stop here, just saying that there's still a long road to go, but we really are building up the strategy, and the idea is really to advance on that on a common ground and a common EU baseline. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, and for providing this European background. Thank you so much for being with us. So I think it's time for our break. So we'll take a 30-minute break. Feel free to stretch your legs, grab a coffee, and network with your fellow attendees. If you see anyone in isolation, feel free to invite them, introduce yourself, and be back on time at 4:20. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy.